You know, video game consoles used to have reset buttons. They don't anymore for some reason. But I think reset buttons are great, especially if you can use them in your life. And this is exactly what this is for me. I feel like there is so much of a backlog that I can't move forward. Hey everyone, I'm Anya Esma, and today I want to talk to you about my weekly reset routine. If you've been following me on Instagram, you know that I've been doing this for about a month now, and a lot of you have been asking me whether I can talk about it, how it gives me a really clean, nice feeling at the beginning of every week, how I do it, how it benefited me, and also some tips to get started, because I feel like there are some pitfalls that I definitely want to address, and also I want to explain why it is not super witchy and how it kind of ties into my witchcraft practice, because that is really what I mostly talk about on this channel, obviously, and what I want to relate it back to. And I also want to talk about some failures, some successes, because I have not been doing it every week, and my plan was to do it every Sunday. I didn't quite stick to that, but we'll get into that later. So I basically want to give you a toolbox that you can use, you can tweak so that it works for you and that you can find a reset routine that really helps you get a positive feeling at the start of every week, because that's what this is really about, you know, feeling like it's January, feeling like it is a new year, a new month, a new anything, because that is a feeling that makes us more active and makes us more able to go after our dreams. And personally, my biggest issue is when to-dos build up or clutter builds up around me and I don't even quite notice. I just kind of slip into it, and then I feel like there is so much of a backlog that I can't move forward. And that is exactly what this weekly reset helps me a lot with. But I'm going to talk about that later. First of all, let me talk about how I do it, what I do on a weekly basis with pictures. It is based on Michelle B's reset routine. I'll put a link to that below. Just like Michelle B, I use a 3-step thing, though the third step kind of isn't working for me, but we'll get to that. So the first big bullet point is getting clear. And then here we have all of the small to-dos that I try to do on a weekly basis in order to get clear, clear my mind, clear my physical space. This is mostly mental and physical, not so much spiritually or body related. So the first thing I do is clear out any papers or mail and trash them or sort them away, or honestly put them in a pile and tell myself that I will sort them later, but at least they aren't lying around the house. This was a big issue for me for a long time. Whenever I would get mail, I'd just leave it lying somewhere around the house, and having this as the first point is super satisfying. Then the second one is clear out my phone desktop and my tabs, depending on what I'm working on, PC, phone, whatever. So I always have like 100 tabs open. Let's say 30 to 40 tabs I will usually accumulate within a week or so. Duplicate tabs, everything. Clearing those out is really helpful and really nice. So the third thing is tidy up quick memo and sorting and labeling. So this is very important. I keep notes that I have during the days very separate from to-dos. I know many people kind of mix them together. They use the same apps they have for to-dos as for taking notes, but that absolutely would not work for me. I have a Quick Memo Plus because it was what was pre-installed on my phone, honestly. And whenever I have a thought or I have an idea, I put it in there, and then at the end of the week, I will try to sort everything into where it belongs. For example, I have a spreadsheet for YouTube video ideas. So if I have an idea, I put it in the quick memo, and at the end of the week, I will sort it into YouTube. Because honestly, so often note-taking apps become this monster for me where I just put everything in there and never look at it again. So having that having a digital sorting system basically helps me a lot. I know where my YouTube stuff is. I know where I keep the logs. For example, for this whole reset thing, I had a log that I kept writing down how I feel about it, writing down what I tweaked. And that is very, very helpful. That's how it works for me. It may not work for you. Have a general note-taking app and then put everything into its own category at the end of the week, or delete any notes you don't need anymore so you don't build up a huge backlog. Then tidy up calendar to-dos, sort, label, digitize. I have a physical calendar as well as a to-do list on my phone. The to-do list on my phone hasn't been working so well for me. I always sometimes I will slip into this space. If I don't do a weekly reset, it's just gonna be so much that I kind of label it as undoable. And then I just kind of ignore all of my small to-dos in my private life. In my work life, I'm not so bad about that, but in my private life, definitely. So yeah, basically look at all the to-dos wherever you have put them, on any little note flying around your apartment, in your calendar, an email to yourself. I love writing emails to myself to remind myself of things, which also isn't the best. But yeah, so sorting all of that and hammering down what to-dos actually need to be done and which ones you can take off, which is the next step, taking off all old to-dos, which is also something I regularly forget unless I do a weekly reset. So that helped a lot. Then I love this step, tidy up my backpack. I take a backpack to work every day. Sometimes weird papers land in it. Sometimes I still have food in there. No, not really. But I have clutter in there, especially if I go out, I don't know, to a museum or an event. There's gonna be people handing out flyers. They land in my backpack. And having a clean backpack where I know exactly what is in it is very satisfying to me. So I really love this step, and even if I do nothing else of my reset routine, I usually try to clean up my backpack at least. The next step is, for me, clear out Ren's desktop. Ren is my husband, and he, sometimes I use his PC and I don't want to clutter his desktop, so I try to clear it up regularly, but usually that's the step that I might leave out if I'm not completely motivated to do the reset. Then I also have a body check-in. However, I haven't been doing that so much. In the beginning, I was thinking, I will talk about this later as well, but I was thinking I want to incorporate more spiritual and body-related aspects into the routine, but that hasn't really been working for me super well, because then it just becomes too much. It becomes not a reset that you can do within a 30-minute time space, but it becomes way bigger and something that you have to set apart like an hour for. So I try to keep it very, very light. Then plant care, that's important. Getting rid of old leaves. Sometimes I kind of forget my plants. That was me looking at my plants, by the way. So yeah, clearing out their leaves, clearing out anything that they don't need anymore is very helpful, because then they look prettier than if I just let them kind of suffer. My clothes pile, that's the last part of the list. Yeah, I accumulate clothing that I wore throughout the week, and cleaning that up, putting it back into its respective place, putting it into laundry, that is super important, because otherwise I'm just going to have a pile of clothing on the floor all the time, and that is not pretty. Especially sometimes I used to not clean it up for like 2 months. It would be winter and I would get to the bottom of the pile and there's still summer clothing, and I'm like, oh Jesus, you have issues, you have issues. So yeah, I do that regularly now to feel better, to have a clean floor space, and it's great. Okay, the second big bullet point is get current. This kind of almost flows into the first step for me a lot of the time. The first point is update your calendar and appointments for the next week. So I kind of sometimes do this while I clear out my to-dos in the other section. Just write down any appointments you have. Remind your mind of what is going on this week so you can plan it. Brain dump all of your to-dos. This is also great. I like doing this independently of the reset routine. And the important thing is that I have a place where I dump them that I don't forget about. You know, sometimes I just want to get it off my mind. I just put it on a note, and that doesn't really work because then the note gets lost or anything like that. So having this as a clear to-do whenever I do it is very helpful, and then you can sort the to-dos into when you want to do them logically. Organize all to-dos, digitize them if necessary. Clarify the to-dos that I've been procrastinating on. I really, really like this one because I always have to-dos that I am not current on and that I haven't been working on for a few weeks. And it helps to break them up into smaller steps and to think about why I have not been taking care of this thing. Usually, for me at least, when I procrastinate on something, when I finally do it, everything aligns and I know exactly why I didn't do it earlier, and it was actually better that I didn't do it earlier. So kind of going intuitively with the flow of when to do a to-do is very helpful. Anyways, so the next thing is YouTube schedule review. I will just shortly look at my YouTube schedule, see what is up, tell myself what I have to take notes on, when I have to start planning a video, when I will film it, and then look at longer projects, make sure that they are broken down. If I have longer projects, I will usually have them in my physical calendar or track them in my note-keeping app. Then the third big bullet point that has never quite worked for me because I feel like it's not really part of the reset so much is personal goals. You have an adventure list, pick a book to read, and the someday maybe list. Michelle B included this because those three lists I think are very important to her. For me, they are not quite. So this kind of falls under making personal plans in the to-do section because usually, you know, I will try to keep a running tab of what I want to do with my life and my week in order to feel connected, feel conscious, whether it is planning some time to engage with the new moon, for example, do a tarot spread for myself, go on a trip with my husband, a little day trip. All of that kind of flows in naturally with the rest of the weekly reset list. So now I quickly want to talk about how it benefited me and what you should keep in mind if you start a routine like this. Basically, if I'm not in a good place mentally, this routine helps me a lot to still do what needs to be done in order to clear my mind and clear my physical space. So I do feel like it has had a positive effect on my mental health. But at the same time, if I am not in a good place, the chances that I will skip it are also relatively high, which is problematic. I have done the routine Monday morning instead of Sunday, all chilled out a few times. So the digital stuff I will just do on my way to work or something like that so that I don't have to do it all at home. So if you've been following me for a while, or if you're new here, hello, you know that my witchcraft practice is not so much about huge spell work, but it is very much about being intuitive, being conscious, and being intentional in my everyday life and connecting with the magic around me in that way, in a way that makes me feel like my life is fulfilled and I am connected with the world, the people around me. Since this is such an important part of my witchcraft practice, the weekly reset kind of ties into it nicely because it's not too elaborate. It is not a huge ritual that I do. It's much more about allowing me to have a clear enough mind to be intuitive and connected and conscious in my everyday life. It makes me feel in control, and that is a huge deal for me because I think it is for everybody. So many times we feel like our to-dos, our phone, anything we do on the internet, our social media governs us. So much of what we see is curated by artificial intelligences and by algorithms. You know, we don't go on social media and consciously look at the people we like. We look at our feed and the algorithm decides what we see. And I think I'm on a path to being more conscious and looking actively at the people that I like and actively engaging with them rather than just succumbing to the algorithm and doing what they want me to do basically, or what it wants me to do. Yes, I think taking control of your life, of your to-dos, of your daily activities is very important. I also feel like the reset routine really helped me carve out time to engage with my space and to fully be connected to the space and to my mind. Oftentimes I will kind of forget that, and I will just have clutter, as I said, lying around and not take a conscious moment to really look at it, to really take care of everything. There could be a basket full of laundry standing, like done laundry that I just have to fold, standing around for 2 weeks, and I just ignore it. I don't see it, you know? I don't know. I guess it's like some stereotypical male thing that people always assign to men for some reason, but I am absolutely like that. I can just ignore it and forget that it exists. Not because I don't want to do it, but because it just doesn't exist unless I really look at it. Let me know if any of you have that issue. I don't take enough time to consciously look at my space and organize it. Because usually, you know, in my everyday life, my spiritual practice, my workout routine, my work, YouTube, all of that takes precedence over tidying up, over cleaning up. And we all have things that are more important than cleaning up. And this just kind of helps you reconnect and create a space that you can be conscious in, a mental space as well as a physical space. So the routine essentially gives me the time to check in with all areas of my life rather than just the ones that I'm used to, especially the ones that I don't feel in control of, but I want to have a grasp on, you know? I want to have kind of an idea of what is going on in all of the nooks and crannies of my life as well as of my apartment. And not having that is difficult. So that's what the reset routine has been benefiting me with and helping me with, to really know the gears turning in the back of my mind and in the background of my apartment, if you will. Plus, this is a huge thing for me as well. If it is the right moment, it can get me in the mood to clean up more deeply and to tidy up more deeply. It can be like a pathway. The weekly reset can be a pathway into clearing more space and tackling tidying up and decluttering that I have felt unable to do for a long time. Because once you have the small daily stuff out of the way, when you're on a roll, you start cleaning up bigger stuff. You start decluttering, tidying up, getting rid of clothes. And that is really what I like the most about the weekly reset, because usually I don't do the big decluttering because I can barely keep up with the small decluttering that you have to do on a weekly basis. You know, papers lying around, full backpack, all of that. And once you have that out of the way and you have time and you're in the fucking mood, you do it. You know, you just do the decluttering rather than procrastinating on it forever like I usually do. That being said, of course, I can't always motivate myself to do it, but if I do, if it is 10 p.m., I'm on the couch and I just want to veg out, and I tell myself, no, I have this impulse right now, I'm gonna do it, just fucking do it. It's usually really helpful. It gets me into a way better mindset than if I had just laid on the couch. Wow, big news. Taking care of to-dos and having a control of your life feels better than lying on the couch. What? Yeah, anyways. So lastly, let us talk about you getting started with this. If you like the list that I put up, then use it. See how it works for you, tweak it if you need to. As I said, don't overwhelm yourself. I wanted to incorporate all of these body things, spiritual things, like maybe even do a tarot reading tied in with the weekly reset, but that makes it, for me, a way too big deal. And then I don't do it. So go slow, ease into it, don't add too much because you think it theoretically makes sense. Make it practical, try it out as it is, and then tweak it. Don't confuse big to-dos with small to-dos. The best example I have of this is, you know, I have my plant care to-do. Now, plant care is possibly watering them a little bit and getting rid of dead leaves. There has been a plant, however, that I've been wanting to repot forever. But this is not part of the weekly reset. This is a dedicated single to-do. So don't confuse big to-dos with the weekly reset and start going into directions that are too much for you. It is better to go through the basics and then move to the big stuff than kind of get sucked into the big stuff. If you intuitively feel like you should be taking care of a bigger to-do, that's fine as well. But I think it's still important to go through the whole process in order to feel that catharsis and to feel that fresh mindset. Also, apply it to bigger projects if you want to, where I have my bedroom, which is a mess. It needs to be decluttered. I have to take care of a lot of things in there. And applying the weekly reset to it is something I'm planning to do because I think it helps me take care of the small things that kind of keep me from taking care of the bigger things, as I said. Because all of this time, the weekly reset, I only did it in the rest of my apartment, not the bedroom. And I think starting small with the bedroom is gonna help me to get into the bigger decluttering stuff. So don't be afraid to apply the weekly reset routine to a space specifically and have different reset routines for different spaces. You could also have a reset routine for work specifically. If you have an office job and you feel overwhelmed with your to-dos, you can also apply it there, not just in your private life. If you're interested in more of the spiritual side of the content, I do have an Instagram, I do have a Patreon where I share a lot about my witchcraft journey and about how you can magically connect with the world in a meaningful way, especially on a psychological and psycho-spiritual level using tarot. So that kind of ties in nicely with the weekly reset, at least for me, because you create space for spirituality, getting it to a fresh start, and pressing the reset button, basically. You know, video game consoles used to have reset buttons. They don't anymore for some reason. But I think reset buttons are great, especially if you can use them in your life. And this is exactly what this is for me. It's a clean slate, it's a fresh start that enables me to move forward in a new and more active and engaged way because I don't feel like so much is weighing on me and so much is oppressing me. I have this backlog of things I need to do that keep me from moving on. Thank you so much for watching this. Take a look at my Instagram, Patreon, whatever you'd like. And if you want to dwell in my domain a little longer, feel free to subscribe. I love creating witchcraft content, conscious living content, video game stuff, anything related to magic and all of the good things in life, basically. And yeah, I wish you the best of days, the best of weeks. Have fun with your reset routine if you're doing it, and lots of fiery passion in your life. I'll see you soon.